So in this video, I'm going to use the two methods that you guys have learned so far, substitution and elimination. I'm going to show you guys how to apply them into word problems. And I know that we don't necessarily like word problems, but this video is going to show you that there actually is a pattern to them, and they're not as bad as you think. Okay? So I'm going to do two of them, and you don't have to copy down what I do for the first two problems at all. You can just watch. Unless it helps you to copy, then by all means. And then what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to do the third problem on your own. Okay? So I'll show you the steps that I go through and try to copy that process for the third problem because it's going to be very similar. Okay? So the first problem says, Jenny and Paul each improved their yards by planting grass, sod, and ivy. They bought their supplies from the same store. Jenny spent $126 on 9 feet squared of grass sod and 3 pots of ivy. Paul spent $168 on 9 feet squared of grass sod and 10 pots of ivy. What is the cost of 1 foot squared of grass sod and the cost of 1 pot of ivy? Now, it seems like a lot at first, okay? We're going to be setting up two different equations. And we're going to use Jenny for one of them and Paul for the other. The most important thing that you guys do is figure out what your two variables need to be, X and Y, okay? Figure out what they should represent. And the biggest hint I can give you is usually the very last sentence is a question. Usually the question will tell you what to let X and Y be. So you see how this one says, what is the cost of the grass? And what is the cost of the ivy? That right there is your X and Y. So we're going to say X is the cost of grass. And we're going to say Y can represent the cost of ivy. Okay? So that's probably the most important part, is defining those two things. All right, so let's make an equation for Jenny first. All right, so I only want you to focus on the sentence that has information for Jenny. Okay, right here. It says she spent a total of $126, 9 feet squared of grass, 3 pots of ivy. Well, I said that grass was represented by X, and I said that ivy was represented by Y. So she did 9 feet squared of grass and 3 pots of ivy, and she spent a total of $126. Okay, so remember, X represented the cost of grass. Well, if she did 9 feet square of grass, then 9x is going to represent the amount that she spent on grass. If Y represents a pot of ivy and she got 3 pots of ivy, 3Y is the amount she spent on ivy. And she spent a total of $126, so you put equals 126 at the end. Let's see if we can figure out the same situation for Paul. So Paul is this sentence in blue. Paul spent $168 on 9 feet squared of grass and then 10 pots of ivy. So let's make a sentence or an equation for Paul. So remember, X goes with grass. He got how much grass? 9 feet squared, just like Jenny. So 9x. And then how much ivy? 10 pots. So plus 10y. And what was his total? His total was 168. Okay? So we're done with the equations. That's the hard part. We need to solve this. Now remember, you guys learned how to do elimination. If your x's are lined up, right, 9x, 9x. If your y's are lined up, if your numbers and equals are lined up, we can use elimination. All we need to do is make sure something's going to cancel. So if we tried to add these the way they are, nothing's going to cancel. So we need to do something to one of these equations. I am going to suggest that we multiply one of them by -1 so that one of these 9's is negative and will cancel with the other one. So let's multiply, I don't know, it doesn't matter, the bottom equation by -1. So I'm going to recopy the top one. And the bottom one, we're going to multiply everything by -1. So -1 times 9x is -9x. -1 times 10y is -10y. And -1 times 168 is -168. Now we can try adding, and sure enough, the x's will cancel. 9 plus -9 cancels. Okay, so the x's cancel. 3y plus -10y is -7y. 126 plus -168 is going to get us -42. Then we just divide by -7, and you get y equals 6. So remember, y represented what? Y was the cost of IV. So that means it's $6 per IV pot. Okay, so now we just plug that back in to one of the equations to figure out the cost of grass. All right, so I'm going to use the first equation. 9x plus 3y equals 9x plus 3y equals 126. We just figured out that y is 6. So we're going to have 9x plus 3 times 6 equals 126. Well, 3 times 6 is 18. We will now subtract 18 from both sides, and we get 9x equals 108. And then last step, divide by 9 on both sides. X equals 12, which means grass is $12 per square foot. Okay, and that's our answer. All right, so that took a little bit longer than I wanted it to, which means that I'm probably not going to do 2 examples and ask you to do the third. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the second one in this video, and I want you guys to just finish the second example for me. Okay, so we don't need to worry about the third one for now. All right, so let's take a look at it. It says, a local amusement park is a popular field trip destination. This year, the senior class at High School A and the senior class at High School B both planned trips there. The senior class at High School A rented and filled 3 vans and 4 buses with 187 students. High School B rented 3 vans and 3 buses with 147 students. Every van had the same number of students in it as did the buses. Find the number of students in each van and each bus. Now remember what I said before. This last sentence is telling you what to do, which means it's going to give you your 2 variables. So the number of students in the vans can be X. So the number of students per van. And then let's say Y is what? Well, number of students in the bus. So number of students per bus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up our first equation, and I want you guys to take care of the second equation and solve the rest of the problem. Okay? So take a look at the sentence that involves high school A. It says the senior class at high school A rented and filled 3 vans and 4 buses with 187 students. So now we said that X represented the number of students per van. Well, this high school rented 3 vans. So that would be 3X. So high school A, first equation. 3 vans and how many buses? 4 buses. Well, what represented buses? That would be Y. So 3X plus 4Y, and their total was 187 students. Okay? So what I want you guys to do is look at the next sentence, fill out an equation for high school B right below, and then you guys should be able to just solve it using elimination just like the first problem.